obviously, how happy were you? I mean, I know you had to be ecstatic that Isaiah. What all does he add back to this team, and especially in the, with the versatility you've added?
Dudley, I love the palm trees in the back.
Socially distant from everybody on the beach here.
What beach?
It's the Dawson Beach in Springdale.
Looks awesome. I think, we're all really excited to have Isaiah back. I know it's always a tough, it's a tough decision for guys that are in that position. But we're extremely excited to have him back without a question of a doubt. And now just looking forward to working with him and getting him ready to have an incredibly career year.
Ellie, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Bob?
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Good. What's up, Bob?
I'm good. Isaiah said, I guess he told you in person a week ago Saturday. When he came in, did you know he was going to tell you his decision? And were you surprised or how did you react?
Yeah, when we had our conversation, I actually was surprised. I think that he went through a period where, he had a goal in mind and maybe it kind of seemed like he was going to come back. And then I think that there became more and more interest, more interviews. And then maybe he was leaning towards taking the NBA route. And then at the very end, he came back around to, thinking that this was going to be the best decision for him. So, and when he told me, I asked him 2 or 3 times, are you sure? Is this really what you want to do? Are you excited about it? And he was excited, and he had zero reservation in his voice, when we discussed it.
And is today going to be the first time he practices with you guys? And if so, what's that going to be like having him at practice? Yeah,
we just finished practice. He went through some of the drills he didn't go through. But yeah, we had a good practice today, and it's awesome to have him back. He understands all our terminology. He does everything the right way. So it was really good to have him back.
Okay, I'll pass the baton, but if you got a chance to come back, I'll be here.
As always, Bob. Curtis?
Hey, Coach. Obviously, having a guy like Isaiah back in the mix that's a big deal. That's exciting. But what he brings to the table at this point. So I'm just curious, with the last 2 weeks of practice without Isaiah on the floor, have you guys found that somewhat beneficial in terms of being able to evaluate all the new faces that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a short, 4-hour last 2 weeks, and we're talking about things like roster development, trying to come up with what our philosophical identity will be. I think with him not, being a part of those first 2 weeks, maybe we're fast tracking some guys at certain positions, which will be good for them. But we got a lot of guys learning the system, learning the playbook. But it's, I think from an evaluation standpoint, we've got to get creative with how we evaluate, just because of the landscape of the COVID-19 and but right now we're just trying, how do we, quote unquote, roster development is really what we're trying to do right now. And I think the guys are excited too, to have Isaiah back.
I imagine they are. With Isaiah back in the mix, adding a shooter with his capabilities, you take a look at the roster and it seems like you have a pretty deep assortment of perimeter shooting threats. Have you ever had a roster that you remember coaching in the past where you could put all 5 guys on the floor who are capable 3-point shooters without giving up size?
Yeah, I would, our team at Nevada that went to the Sweet 16 was built a little bit like this because of, Kendall Stevens was such a great shooter, and the Martin twins obviously could really shoot. And those three guys were all 6'7", and gave us, really good versatility. And then Jordan Caroline was a guy that could play inside out at 6'7". So we've kind of, have had a team in the past where we could put 5 shooters out there, but every team's got their own identity. Certainly Isaiah, changed the landscape of who we are, what our identity can look like. And I do think for sure, Curtis, that we do have some roster flexibility for how we want to play. But so do, other teams in the SEC have they got players that have tested the waters. And as I was walking in, I saw Alabama got, Petty back. And so, it's, it's talented league for sure.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Yeah. Hey, Eric. In terms of a guy like Isaiah comes back, he has specific things he wants to get better at. He's sharp enough to know that. What would you say he needs to show improvement on this season?
Yeah, I think that, number one is just, his overall body development comes with age and continuing to work in the weight room, continue to, from a nutritional standpoint to try to add body weight to his frame. And I think that alone will significantly help him because that's really important at the next level. And I know that he's committed to, not that he hasn't been in the past, but I think he's excited about the weight room. I think he's excited about nutrition. And he's such a great shooter. We never want to take away from that, but I think drawing fouls, adding free throws attempted to his game, and continue to evolve as a ball handler. I think those are things that he's looking forward to. And, so I think that every player, until you hit about 30 years old, you constantly want to evolve and try to get better.
Throughout this crisis, there's been no real certainties about how things are going to progress. What's your thoughts about being able to put fans in the stands when basketball comes back around?
Yeah, I'm just really glad the NBA's playing. There's no fans, but it's awesome to tonight. I'm going to go home and watch NBA basketball. I'm going to turn on the MLB and see baseball games, and the WNBA's playing, and the basketball tournament finished their tournament start to finish. And so there's been a lot of real positivity that's happened during this pandemic that in my opinion, is not talked enough about, because there are some things that are happening where guys are competing and we're able to have sports. And I just, hopeful for SEC football, whether there's fans or whatever that situation ends up being. And I think we'll worry about basketball fans after we figure out what's happening with football. And we certainly hope that Coach Pittman and his group gets to play games. And I think we're optimistic and hopeful that'll happen. But as far as what happens with us and fans, I think that's, down the road, and really no reason to speculate as things kind of twist and turn on a daily basis.
Thanks, Mas.
Thanks, Tom.
Kevin?
Hey, Mus.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, Isaiah Joe, last year you coached the SEC Player of the Year in Mason Jones. Do you see Isaiah Joe as a guy that comes in preseason deserving of some talk for SEC preseason Player of the Year? And if you do, can you talk about some of the tangibles and maybe intangibles that would go into him being that kind of guy for you in year 2?
Yeah, Kevin, I certainly feel like he has got to be mentioned as a preseason type Player of the Year. And you look at what he's done. I mean, he's, there's you look at freshman, sophomore seasons, and he's had 2 great years as a really young player. I mean, there's going to be other players in our league that'll be going into their junior and senior year. obviously he's going into his junior year, and I think he's been a guy that's proven he's an all-league first-team guy, even his first 2 years in college. And he does a lot of intangible things. Obviously, everybody talks about the shooting and how he spaces the floor. And, for us, speed and space is a term that we've used with our team from an offensive standpoint. And he's going to that speed and space game. But, yeah, I think there's no doubt he's worthy and should be a guy talked about when you talk about the top players in our league. I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Follow-up question here. Recruiting so big, and obviously you've had a great year, top 5 national class high school, top 10 transfer. Should we look at decisions like this and the work that a staff has to do to balance, giving players good information that might help them decide to leave, but also showing them the importance of maybe coming back? That's recruiting too, right? I mean, is this like winning a 5-star recruit? And how tough is it to kind of be in the middle on that fence with pros and cons as whether or not he should stay or go?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of, it depends on the player really, Kevin, on how involved. Certainly we tried to provide Isaiah and his father as much information as we possibly can. We also tried to help facilitate any calls that we might have gotten to help facilitate Zoom interviews. And I think the bottom line is when you lose, like I've been in the NBA, I know how great it is. I know how great the lifestyle is. I know the level of play. That's the dream of any basketball player. So as a coach or a coaching staff or administration, you want to do everything you possibly can to try to help that player reach his goal as quickly as he can, but also to put himself in a position where he can have a career at that level. And so you discuss pros and cons, and if asked, you kind of give an opinion on what you think might be best. And, I think it varies from player to player or family to family, how involved a coach at the collegiate level will be in this. But, Isaiah and Derek his father were very thorough throughout the process. They took their time, which they certainly should, because it's a monumental decision. And you're really, myself, the trainer, the strength coach, the assistant coaches, support staff, we're just here to try to support Isaiah throughout the process. And I hope that he feels like, we kind of went, did it the right way. But I would not say, Kevin, that we recruited him. That's the last thing that I would ever want to do with a player, is to try to recruit him back if he's trying to pursue an NBA dream. I want to just provide the pertinent information that's based on facts from phone calls and people that you trust and have long-standing relationships with, and then let the player and his family make the proper decision. Now, getting him back, does it feel like we got a star back? Unequivocally, yes. There's no question about that. But I don't really look at it from a, quote unquote recruiting standpoint, because, I don't believe in trying to, recruit somebody away from what they really want to do. And we know, like I know right now, Isaiah wants to play in the NBA. He's part of the Arkansas Razorbacks right now, but he has a goal and dream to play in the NBA. And so, we want to try to help him in practice behind closed doors, to work on skill development, to put himself in the best position to be as high a draft pick as he possibly can a year from now.
Thanks, Mus.
Thanks, Kev.
Hayden.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Coach, just Isaiah kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but he just talked about the pride and how much of a privilege it is to play for the state you grew up in and were raised in. And I was just kind of wondering how much you think that led to his decision coming back. And also, you said he was on the practice floor a little bit today. He's played with so many of these guys that are from Arkansas and AAU and against them in high school. Just the camaraderie and the conversations and the fun they have sort of playing beside each other and then maybe running drills with each other once again.
Yeah, I think the guys are, like I mentioned earlier, I think they're really excited to have him back. I know that it was really important for him to tell the guys himself. And, and then there's obviously familiarity with those guys, both on the floor and off the floor from a bonding standpoint. And I don't think there's any doubt that, the Razorbacks and the University of Arkansas mean a lot to Isaiah. There's no question about that. But I also think that he kind of tried to separate that, kind of make the best business decision that he thought would help his career, both short-term and long-term. And I think he and his family did an incredible job of kind of removing all emotion and decision.
Gotcha. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, we got time for a few more. Trey, Biddy.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Trey?
So recruiting, you guys are well known for throwing stuff against the wall, coming up with creative ideas, branching off, all that stuff. How difficult is that right now with, being limited to Zoom meetings and virtual tours and stuff? And have you come up with anything that's kind of off the wall?
I mean, we probably have, but we don't want to share anything that's not already out there, Trey. But I tell our staff every single day, whether it's the text that they wake up to in the morning, or whether it's talking with administration, whether it's talking with sports information department, like there's no excuse right now to not be as good a recruiters as anyone in the country. I don't mean like top 10, but I mean just from a recruiting standpoint, because right now everybody's equal. Like, how quickly can you put together virtual presentations? How creative are you getting in your virtual presentations? How much are you changing the virtual presentations? Are you creating new ones on a weekly basis? How do you not become stale? Because to just go say, hey, we're gonna do a virtual tour of campus and you're only going to do one of them, well, guess what? Somebody else is doing 2 and 3. So, but on the recruiting aspect, I mean, the landscape has changed, and it's probably changed. It's never going to look the same, I don't think. I think that this virtual stuff is going to stick around. And I think that's a good thing, because I think you can kind of educate people a little bit more on your program than maybe just waiting for a visit. I think maybe you can find out what's real and not real even before an official visit on campus. And then there's always the evaluation piece that right now has changed. We can't read body language, and you're evaluating on live stream and so forth. And so we're going to be extremely patient in recruiting this class, and try to eliminate as many mistakes as possible. And there's, whether it's an NBA draft, a Major League Baseball draft, an NFL draft, college recruiting, you're not gonna bat 1,000. Nobody does in any sport. And so you just try to, do it as best you can from an evaluation standpoint and gather as much information. And right now it's really hard and challenging to get a lot of information. And so we're going to be a little bit, slower, maybe than in the past as far as how we go about things moving forward.
And with the roster right now, with how it's comprised with 4 freshmen, 3 returners, we got 3 sit-ones with Abiami out, I guess. And then the 3 grad transfers. Is this your wheelhouse? Is this kind of what we can expect from a Eric Musselman type of roster, pulling from every angle like that?
Well, I mean, I think right now when you look at, let's just start with transfers. When you look at the number of transfers in any sport, the landscape has changed. And you can either do things the way they used to be, or you can evolve with what's going on in current society. And so that's what we've tried to do. I think, like this year's roster has a nice blend and a nice mix. Certainly, I think from we don't know what the landscape's going to be like moving forward. regarding transfers and so on. And so, I guess I really can't answer that, Trey. I think that what we are trying to do is have a team that can win, have a program that can graduate guys, has a program where guys' experience at the college level is what it should be, which should be the best time of their lives. So that's what we're trying to do throughout this process. And, the feedback that we've gotten from the grad transfers right now, as far as new players that have played, elsewhere, really, really, really positive feedback in a short amount of time on their experience, whether it's in practice or living in Northwest Arkansas, whatever it may be. Really positive feedback so far.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Nikki?
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Nikki.
Fans' expectations have just skyrocketed since Isaiah Joe announced his news. How much have your expectations grown since that? And is it kind of where you expect this program to be every year preseason, in the top 25 discussion?
Yeah, I think that, no one's going to put more expectations on anything than I will internally. Last year, my expectations going into every game were trying to win every game. And the games that we didn't win, I was devastated, but I do think that they played as hard as they could. And certainly right now we have a roster that we feel is deeper, more talented than last year's roster. And I think the guys that were here last year and are here now would say the same thing. Even Mason was at a practice last week. And he thought that, the makeup of the roster, and again, right now what we are is we're a team with potential. There's a lot of factors like chemistry, accepting roles, sharing the basketball, rotating on defense when you're supposed to, getting loose balls, playing hard. All those things, I don't know how they're going to go. But I knew that if we had a good roster, that the expectations at Arkansas, I knew what they were going to be like, because we have incredible fans that got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and they want to win. And so I knew that there would be expectations, and certainly with Isaiah coming back, those expectations got even more so, which is cool. Bring it on, and then we got to try to put it together as best we can.
Thank you.
It's better, Nikki, than the other way, when there's no expectations.
Definitely agree.
All right, Troy, why don't you wrap us up here?
Yeah, for sure. Coach, pleasure to meet you. For my question, you've only been here about, a season. How nice is it to have somebody who's already had success with your system to come back and almost help out the new freshmen and new players implement your system for year two?
Yeah, no, Troy, it's nice meeting you. And I think certainly, Isaiah is going to be he's going to be a stabilizing influence. When you're in a game and you're on a roller coaster and the game's going like this and there's runs, who do you look to as a coach? Who do your teammates look to? And Isaiah is kind of like that stabilizing guy that never got on the roller coaster. He's kind of, comes at you with this methodical pace. And all of us, me included, rely on somebody like Isaiah. All right, let's look at him. He's got, everything together. He's going to, hit a big shot when we need it. He's going to take a charge when we need it. He's going to have that defensive rotation when we need it. And then when he's not in the game, he's always a guy on the bench that's seeing the game, can discuss what's going on with teammates. And certainly, even the last 2 weeks when he was still going through the NBA process, when he was at practice, he was awesome buddy coaching on the side. It's a phrase we use to buddy coach and help your teammates out and get them in the right spots and drills. And he's been an extra coach for us when he's been around. and not doing NBA Zoom stuff. So certainly during the course of the season, Troy, he's going to be somebody that we rely on for so many things, not just getting us buckets, but to be a stabilizing influence who's proven player in this system.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
All right, last one, Nate. Go ahead.
Nate, you're on mute.
Unmute, damn it.
There you go. You went back to mute, Nate.
Damn it. How about
right,
now?
Now
You're good.
Okay, good. Let me get it while I can. As far as on defense, what does it mean to have him back? And also just having your best shooter be the first to take a charge. How much does that help the team?
No, I think I think, Nate, when somebody's willing to lay their body on the line, number one, it means they're in their proper defensive position off the ball. You know, I think that's, something that we talk to our team about. Like, you can't take a charge if you're out of help defense. And so when you have a player that's a high take a charge guy like Isaiah, well, guess what? That means he's a great off-ball defender, and he's in the right spot defensively to be a help guy. Otherwise, those charges turn into blocking calls. And so I think that's contagious. When a guy does that, we call it, when you're on the weak side, to be on the blue line, a hockey term, not to be off hugging your man. And Isaiah does as good a job being on the blue line as anybody I've coached, meaning he's willing to err on the side of being an overly help player instead of being a selfish defender where he's only worried about his man. And that's why you see such a high volume of taking charges in his short 2-year career here. But I think he all of a sudden made us a better help defensive team as well when he made his decision to come back.
Thanks.